even though Sally's second ever job on set was a major ITV drama, it didn't automatically open doors. She still had to take on other photography work just to pay the bills until she built up enough on-set experience to really gain traction in the industry. Sally, this is your life story.
Wow.
This is, well, all the stills, your stills life, pretty much,
Okay.
since you started. But I want you to take me back to the very beginning. How did you get involved in this? So yeah, let's just rewind the clock till your beginning days. You were an actress before, right? Isn't it?
I was an actress, yeah. So I always took pictures. I always had a camera on me. I think I had one from about 18. I was given a camera for my 18th. So I was going through university, taking pictures of friends. I was doing drama at university, and I was, always taking pictures. I took pictures when I did productions, but I just thought that was my kind of hobby and enjoyed it. But it was a slow burn from moving from the acting into the photography. But when I got there, I went, oh yeah, of course, I've always sort of been doing this in the background. But yeah, that was a shift from acting, mainly because I kind of got fed up with the ups and downs of the acting profession. I was working quite a lot in my 20s, and then in my 30s, I found that it was much harder, which is often the case for women. That happens quite a lot. So yeah, I started doing what I think a lot of people do when they first start photography, and they do all sorts of photography, everything. I did headshots for friends. I did some weddings, event photography, and eventually I thought, wait a minute, I need to kind of be getting back into the thing that I know best, which is theatre and performing.
Do you think, you said that you got tired of acting because of there was a lack of work because you were a woman. Do you think is it still a case now, or do you think that male roles are still kind of predominant?
Yeah, I think sort of since I was doing it, a lot of this, the kind of blind casting and women playing men's roles, that whole thing has happened. So that's opened up things a lot more. I think there is a bit of a dip for women. As a young woman in your 20s, there's kind of a lot of parts around. And then if you almost see that weird time through in your 30s, I think it can come good the other side. But, you kind of just have to do the math. If you're looking at, for example, a Shakespeare play, there's a lot of men in it compared to women. So it really was at the time about the amount of roles that were around. And
they were all men predominant.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the case now. Let's face it. There's a redressing of the balance, but we're not really there.
What year was this?
So I gave up acting probably around 2006, around that time. Yeah, but first of all, I went into writing. I was writing a lot with another actor, and we did some writing for radio and some telly stuff. And then from that, I went into copywriting. So I had another career in between photography. So it was really about earning money as well. I was fed up of just doing jobs here and there. I was mainly a theatre actor, so I wasn't earning a lot of money. And I just wanted to earn some more dosh. So I kind of went into writing, doing copywriting. And from that, I worked for an organisation that did big events, and I was writing stuff for them, and I was looking at the photographers going out on the events and going, oh, I would love to do that. So that's how I kind of got into the photography. Was mainly event photography, moving into the world of theatre, back into theatre again.
What year was this?
So I suppose this was kind of between 2010, 2020. So yeah, I'm trying to think what date was the actual date when I did my first short film, which is a friend. That's how I got into the actual stills world, was a friend of mine who was a choreographer, a well-known choreographer who works a lot in Hollywood. She was doing her first short film as a director. and she got me in to do that as a photographer. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm not very good
Have
at
you done
dates.
a lot of like indie work?
Well, it was a kind of weird trajectory for me because I didn't do a lot of the short film world and indie stuff. I was very lucky because I did a short film with my friend. And because I'd been to uni with I did drama at uni, and I knew a lot of producers and writers and people that came out of that course. So the first television job I did was a major ITV series. So I'd gone from a small film to a very big show, and I was covering on a couple of days for a photographer. And yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. From then, it was very jumpy, and it didn't just then take off. It obviously then took some time. It wasn't like, wow, I had this big break and then, I was flooded with work. It still took quite a while to get going, which is normal for everybody. But I was quite lucky at the beginning, yeah.
How your first indie shot? How were the days on set? Do you know what you were doing, taking stills, or you were winging it? Or...
I was feeling my way. I don't know. I suppose because I was very intuitive with actors, obviously. I'd worked with actors, and I'd been on a film set, and I'd done television as an actor. So the world of a film set was completely okay for me, So I knew the etiquette of that.
Oh, okay.
You still have to learn it from the other side of the camera point of view, though, and you're still figuring out, oh, right, okay, this is what I need to do and this is where I need to be. But it was very lucky because I was just, as we all are, we're on our own bosses in that situation, trusted, and as I was then by a friend, to kind of do the job. So in a way, you're okay. It's okay to figure it out in your own time, I don't think I was doing an enormous amount on camera. I did have a blimp. That would have been blimp days.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question.
Yeah. So I did have a blimp, but I think there was so much going on. It was actually, because she was a choreographer, she was using dance in the film. So there was a lot of rehearsal time, a lot of time where the camera had to work out what it was doing. The team were sort of working out their moves because there was so much choreography. So I got a lot of rehearsal time to practice and to move with the dancers and to get in there. And so from that point of view, I was very lucky. We had a lot of rehearsal time, which I think is mainly where I got a lot of the stuff.
And do you know that you had to use the blimp back then? Or
I did.
How do you find that out? Because I just think that that's the reason of the podcast, but there is not much information out there. So back in 2010, 2012, there was even less.
Exactly.
Do you know other still photographers back then, or
no?
So how do you learn about the blimp?
Exactly. It was, I don't know, I suppose I was scratching around on the internet trying to find out as much info as possible. I hadn't connected with a lot of photographers then, and that was, I think, definitely a big mistake. Because I think it was it seemed much more closed. It felt like, there's not a lot of information out there. I feel a bit worried about contacting photographers to ask them some of these questions, which are probably quite basic. Mm-hmm. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. The more information that's out there, the better. And of course, now it's very easy to access this, although I think it's still some of it's a bit shady, isn't it? There are grey areas where you think, well, I'm not sure about that. I did know about the blimp, and now I can't remember how I sort of found that out, but I got it, practiced with it, but they were horrendous. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever used one.
I have one, yeah. My first three films, I've done it with a blimp, but I done it with the Aquatec blimp, which
right.
I just felt that it was more easy to use than the Robinson or Robertson, whatever.
Yeah.
What blimp do you have?
I had the Aquatec as well. And it was fine. But of course, I didn't have a lot of kit. I had one camera. So if I had to get it, I had to get it into the blimp to do the stills, then get it out of the blimp if you're doing behind the scenes. So this whole in, out, and then making sure all the settings were fine. It was just, it was sweaty.
Yeah. What camera do you have back then?
So that would have been a Nikon D3S.
Oh, wow. So it's a big blimp.
Yeah.
And that's really heavy nowadays.
Yeah. So a big heavy camera in a big heavy blimp, right? So every time you're doing a shot, you're like,
especially you're really slim.
Yeah.
So the blimp is bigger than you.
Exactly. It's like, well, it's shooting in a suitcase, basically, isn't it? Exactly. That's what it is. It just feels like this horrendous thing, and you also feel really obvious on set. Instead of trying to shrink, you just feel like, ooh, here I come with my massive blimp. So, but as I said, that's why it was great to be able to do a lot in rehearsal for that one. That it felt like I wasn't limited to the on-screen stills.
The Nikon 3DS, you said?
Yeah.
That's a professional body.
Yeah. By that stage, I'd already been shooting professionally in other capacities. So I did a lot of event stuff. I'd done a lot of weddings, and I was kind of So I was a full-time professional photographer then. I just wasn't doing
unit
stills. Yeah.
And so, and how do you feel that first gig, that first short film? Do you feel that you belong, or do you feel like, oh, what am I doing here?
That was lovely because I guess I was shooting with friends. It was not only the director, but a lot of the team I knew. I knew a lot of the actors that were in it. So it was lovely because I think on those projects, often you are valued and you're taken on board as part of the initial creative team. So I felt that I had quite a lot of creative leeway.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of access to the actors, and so that was really nice. So I thought, oh, this is great. This is always how it's going to be. I'm going to be able to have this amount of room to work and maneuver. But it was certainly, I felt, I was really pleased with what I got, I think, on that set in terms of moving forward with the portfolio and things.
You said that from there you went into a big ITV series. Which one was it?
Broadchurch. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this is 2015.
Thank you. See, I don't remember the date. So you're going, oh, that was 2000. Okay, great. Good to know.
2015.
So, Colin Hutton was the main photographer on that. And I didn't know Colin at the time, but I did know the producer. So he got me on board, obviously, when Colin couldn't do a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And I just did a couple of days on that. And that's when I really was into an area of, now I don't really know what I'm doing. And I am winging it.
And how do you get to know this producer?
So we were at university together. So that was the lucky break. That was,
Yeah, because that was my question. Like, how do you move from the indie world into the biggest stuff? Or is it like luck, or you have a golden ticket sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think doing drama, moving in that world, it's a bit like if you are at film school or you work with people in film school and then you kind of go on to productions with them. So I was lucky, I guess, in that. Yeah, I wasn't, although I went on to be an actor, it wasn't a drama school as such. It was, people that then went into all kind of aspects of the industry. So I did end up knowing kind of directors and writers, and he was very loyal to me and got me on 2 or 3 projects that helped me at the start. As I said, it was jumpy. It wasn't, because he was kind of my only contact at the time. It wasn't then like, wow, I did that job and I was getting loads of stuff. There was quite a big gap between the next thing.
Before that, you had Snow in Paradise and The Uncles. The Uncles was short.
Yes.
Is that indie?
That was indie, and that was, again, friends that put that together. So that was shooting in Italy. And Snow in Paradise was, again, another friend that I knew who was a really well-known editor that's gone into directing. And so those were all nice little kind of feature things that were happening on the side. Again, that sort of smaller world when you're, you've got quite a lot of leeway creatively, and that's
from from Broadchurch, you went into undercover 2016.
Yeah. Okay, great.
There is a year gap.
Yes. You see, big gaps.
Big gaps. What do you do in the in-between?
So I was still then working in with all my other, I had clients on the go from the sort of event world, corporate world. I was still doing weddings. I was sort of doing everything. I was doing headshots at home. So I set up more of a headshot studio at home so that I was doing headshots in the downtime and doing other stuff. And I was still working a bit in the theatre, doing the odd production and covering things like that. Not acting, just all stills or theatre stills. So yeah.
You had the girls back then.
Yeah.
It? How was that? How was managing being a mother of two young kids and your work on sets and stuff like that? You have to be away.
Yeah. Well, because it was sporadic, it wasn't all the time. So a lot of the event stuff and the things that I was doing, they were London based. So that was easy. A lot of it was in the evening if it was event things. If it was weddings, it would be a weekend. My husband is freelance as well. So we just juggled it, and we tended to do that thing. If I was doing a job, he would take a bit of time off, or if he were doing a job, then he was much busier than I was during that period. So in a way, it kind of worked out because mine was a lot more sporadic. He was a lot more full on. Over time, it's kind of switched back and forth a bit. So we've muddled through. But yeah, I think it's just, I think it's not easy for any parents of young kids because it's long days, isn't it, in the industry? And
how do you? Because what I'm picturing is, I'm Sally. There is this massive lack of knowledge out there to find out more about. How do you arrange day rates? How do you arrange? Where do you get the knowledge from? And how were those days?
I mean, making it up. I think I was very lucky in that I did work with producers and publicity people that were pretty honest and upfront. You know, it was kind of, this is the rate. And that felt like, well, obviously you're just in those days going along with anything, aren't you? But I think nobody was ripping me off in those early days. It was pretty fair. I was getting the going rate. And I think, yeah, now I look back and go, oh, it's so great to be more connected with other photographers and share that information and chat and be much more open about it. It was just a very dark art back then. It's like, how do I find out how to do this? And is this the right amount of money? And what should I do? But then in a way I would always say to people, don't worry too much about that as well. It's kind of, you will figure it out and you will rise to the occasion, I think.
Because one of them, when I had the one-to-one with Amy, this was a few years back when I was starting out, and I'm guessing I'm still starting out. I asked her, like, in terms of rate, how much should I charge if it's indie, if it's like, or if it's like an ITV show and stuff like that. And I said, the reason for that is because I don't want to lose a job because I charge too much.
Absolutely.
And you got Kevin down the road that is charging you half a rate, and they might stick with him. He might not do a better job or a worse job. He might just do okay, but you're missing out on jobs because you charging more. And what I said to Amy, the reason why I'm asking about how much to charge is so we're all in the same page and we are not like overstepping each other and taking jobs from each other, because at the end of the day, one way or another, we all get to know each other, the photographers. So knowing that we're all in the same page is very important, especially now that after what happened with the strikes a few years back.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there should be some sort of stills community where you can ask these questions freely, and you can get feedback from it, because otherwise you don't have any point of reference.
Absolutely. And I think that is emerging, isn't it, now? And that obviously we're all a pretty approachable bunch, and I think it's certainly the mistake I made at the start is not chatting more to people, not being able to access that information.
Do you think that honesty about publicity is still there this day and age?
I think
Or do you think they're trying to take advantage?
I think that probably there's a bit more sometimes cutting corners now, and if they know a photographer's a little bit less experienced, they might try and offer a bit less. It's very good, I think, if you go in, have a bit of knowledge of, okay, if it's a BBC drama, what the kind of going rate might be, if it's ITV, if it's Netflix, this sort of thing, what if you've got any intel on what that, a previous offer might be. But at the same time, I think you've also got to, I suppose, set your own standards in a way and decide what you're happy to take, particularly when you're starting out. Because obviously there may be jobs when you decide to do something for very little money because it's going to be a great thing for your portfolio. And that's okay to start with. To be honest, it's okay no matter what stage you're at. If you think this is going to make a real difference to me, it's something that you're going to get out of it.
What's a starting rate now for stills for people that are established? What's on a starting rate?
A good rate, I think, would be $650 a day.
Plus kit?
Usually including kit.
Okay.
But, that's a sort of baseline, I think, but that really does vary across the board. And obviously on a film, it might be less because you're working more days. But I would say that is a good rate for kind of a BBC, ITV, whatever, that's a, yeah.
And all this knowledge, you got it with experience on set of and on doing different dramas and series for ITV and BBC. But was there a particular drama that you did that you think, oh, this is like a step up from what I was doing?
I think there wasn't one project that kind of made a huge difference that made me think, wow, okay, now this is a gear shift up. It was probably a series of things with different challenges which made you go, wow, this is a really nice thing, or this is a great experience for this reason. So I would say nothing stand out that changed my life, but more a kind of sequence of projects. And there's ones where you go visually, this is just looks lovely, therefore you're going to get some really nice stuff from it. Or it might be that you work with a specific actor that you go, this is a great actor to have in my portfolio. Yeah.
People say that in order to move up the ladder, you need to have a recognizable face in your portfolio. You went from doing indie short to an ITV drama.
Yeah.
With no stops in between.
Yes.
Why is it that we need to have a recognizable face?
I think it's the fact that you've been trusted with somebody that is established. It does make a bit of a difference because you can have lots of great shots from an indie shoot, but suddenly if you've got a well-known face, or perhaps you've had something from a well-known project or an established project, it's like, okay, this person has been on this kind of set where it's at this level and it's an actor that we recognize, and therefore you've kind of had some experience of working with that level of person, and you've obviously come out of it okay.
Do you feel like you skip a step?
Definitely. Yeah. But then it wasn't then offered to me on a plate, if you see what I mean. It sort of, that happened, but then it still took a while because you've only then got that one thing in your portfolio. So it still takes a while to have, like anybody, having come from events, it was the same thing to build up an event portfolio that looks like you've covered every kind of event. It's just the same to have a portfolio that looks really extensive, that's covered different types of drama, be it a period, modern, you know. So something that, just feels...
At what point in your career you decided to leave everything else and you said, I'm just going to do unit still work?
I still have clients that I work for that are... I've got charities and corporate clients that I do the odd thing for, because why would you let that go? These are people that I've worked with for a really long time. So I will go and do the odd day here and there on a sort of an event or a charity thing. So, I think I've also done headshots up till quite recently. So I've got things on the go all the time that are in other fingers in pies, because you just never quite know. And actually it has been a quiet couple of years in the industry. So in a way, I've been quite glad not to have
Giving everything
let
up.
those drop. Yeah.
From undercover, you got 5'5", and I got the first recognizable name, which is Silent Witness.
Yes.
This is 2018 that you started on.
Yeah.
How was that experience? From Silent Witness is something that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
I think that there are certain standards when it comes to something that has been going on for such a long time, and you stepping in as a quite new photographer. You've only been doing like 4 years now. How was that experience, your experience on that?
Yeah. I think Silent Witness, because it has been going so long, has been a little bit of a training ground for quite a few photographers. A lot of people have... It's one of those dramas that I think is a good point to start out, to be on something for a while, that then is definitely a bit of a training ground before you get to the next step. So from that point of view, that was really good. I think I did a couple of series of that. And that was also doing key art and gallery shooting. So that was when I was getting into that side of things for the first time. So from that point of view, that was my first experience of that side of things.
How was the gallery shoots? Do you know what to do on the gallery shoot? Do you know what the client wanted?
In that case, there was a brief about the kind of thing we were looking for, but then they were also looking to stray a little bit from what they'd done in previous years. So it was up to me to kind of come up with something that was maybe a little bit of a different take on it without going too far away from what they were used to. But again, that was definitely first time doing a big gallery shoot with actors that had done it many times before. And you're kind of reinventing the wheel, because, it's a tried and tested format. It's a tried and tested way of that particular show looking. So there's a limit to what you can do creatively in terms of,
How do you feel on that first gallery shoots?
Terrified.
Yeah, but...
Yeah. So...
I done the 2023, I done a workshop with Gareth in terms of like lighting workshop, and that gave me a lot of insight on gallery shoots and what to do, what not to do. How did you figure it all out back in 2018?
I suppose the thing that I was okay with is working with actors, because being an actor, that's my comfort zone. Okay. So I kind of know that sort of, I suppose what a lot of photographers worry about is, what do I do with the actors? How do I, what do I say to them? What do I make them do? How do I make them, how do I work with them? So that was less of a problem for me, because I sort of knew how to direct actors and how to work with them. I was much more worried about the technical side of things. Okay. Yeah, about the lighting and about, just feeling like I was working with an assistant who was amazing. So obviously she knew much more than I did, which is always a good way to work when you're working with lighting assistants. But I think I was more worried that something technical wouldn't be right, or it would go wrong, or that, it was just the tension of working in that moment. And that's the thing, that after a time is, you have to do a few, I think, to get into the rhythm of it before you start going, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. I've got my way of doing this, and I'm not so worried about all the moving parts anymore,
Up until this point, have you had a negative review in regards of images, or like this is not what I was looking for, or something like that?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something specific. No. I think I always, even to this day, worry about what I deliver. Is
Okay.
this, especially with a new client, not with, obviously with an existing client you have, but if you're working with a new client, you're always kind of like, is this what they're going to expect? Is this the amount of images I should be delivering? I think everybody, probably that kind of worry never goes away, particularly when you first deliver a set of images. It's like, is this the kind of thing that they're looking for? I don't think anybody's ever sort of said, what on earth was this? Maybe there's sort of steering in the direction of, it'd be nice to see some more of this or that as you go along, or you learn a little bit more about with different clients, where to kind of have a weight of things. There might be one job that needs a lot more pull asides, for example, or something, you've got to work a bit more to get that kind of stuff. And that, I would say that's more learning as you go a little bit. But nothing that I can think of where clients have gone, why did you not do this?
And have you taken any courses or anything like that in regards of?
So I did, early on in the early days, I went and did, I've always kind of tried to fill the gaps, done some lighting courses. And right back at the beginning, when I was getting into more sort of working as a professional photographer and deciding to move into that, I kind of went right back to the beginning and kind of did like film developing and all that, that was sort of, so to kind of get to grips with the basics and the things that I feel that people that went to college to do photography would have done,
But nothing specific to units, those.
Absolutely not. No, because nothing existed at that time. It does now, but no, that was just.
So you winging it every single day.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of, I think the thing about unit stills is a lot of the time the people that come into it already are pretty good photographers. It's often they've discovered it from moving into from another branch of photography. So, I'd already done an enormous amount of high profile events and weddings and things. So I was used to working under a lot of pressure. And I think I certainly technically knew what I was doing. That wasn't a problem for me. The only thing, like I said, was I hadn't had experience of was the kind of gallery shoots and things. But even then, I'd work with actors at home with doing kind of headshot stuff with lighting. So, but the more pressurized big shoots, still, I think I'm learning on the hoof with that. There are situations when
But was there a point that you were comfortable walking into set knowing, right, this is what I need to do and this is what I need to be and this is, I don't know.
Definitely, but that comes over time. I think it's a bit like learning how to drive a car. You learn how to drive a car and you can drive a car, but it takes quite a while to be a good driver. So I think that's exactly the same. You can be a good photographer, but it takes quite a while to be a good unit photographer and to just have that ease on set and confidence and a little bit of the intel of where you need to be to nurture your relationships with people and to sort of start to know. I think at the start you're covering everything, and I think what a lot of photographers who start off often do is a lot of behind the scenes things, lots of pictures of the crew and things like that. And bit by bit, you start to get to realize, what will be used as a publicity still and what is useful for a publicity department. And so you start to narrow your field a little bit more, and you get a lot more specific about, I probably don't need to get that shot, or I need to work harder to get this, or this is where I'm lacking a little bit. And so that just comes over time.
What's a healthy number of images that you deliver on a normal day?
So again, I think that's something that is, you worry about a lot to start with. Oh gosh, am I delivering too much? Am I delivering too little?
Exactly.
And again, after a while, I think you start to become confident with, this is right for this job. This is all I need to do. And so I think I probably under-deliver. I would rather pick things that I'm really comfortable with, rather than, say, if it's a scene, you know, a 2-shot, and, you know, rather than kind of bombard a publicity person with 50 variants of that,
Yeah.
it's like, pick your best, pick the best, and be confident that you've chosen well, and that, you know, you'll probably get a kind of brief from there'll be some clients that say, no, I really want to see a lot, I would rather have more. And other clients that say, please don't give me everything, just give me your selection, you know, because it saves them time.
Yeah,
right?
of course, absolutely.
Yeah, as long as you've got options for actors, because if you have actors that need choice, then that's another consideration. But yeah, I would say what you deliver on each job completely varies, but it can be anything from, 50 images today to 300, I guess. But I'm shooting a hell of a lot more, obviously. But yeah.
From Silent Witness, you went into Code 404 in 2021. And after that, Doctor Who, 3 episodes.
Yes.
Was that a big step?
That was amazing, because it's so iconic, isn't it? So, yeah, really exciting. And I hadn't done any sci-fi or anything like that before. So, yeah, fantastic. Really fantastic.
You got Doctor Who, Killing Eve. I just feel like every photographer done Killing Eve or Silent Witness on Doctor Who at this point.
We've all done the same things.
Yeah. Killing Eve 2022. This was coming out from COVID, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Life After Life.
Yes.
From looking at your IMDb, it's all BBC and ITV drama. So it's all
a lot of it. Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Have you done film much?
Not at all, really. Just the short films, and so I'd love to do more. That's where I'm kind of lacking. Would love to, do more film.
You got The Outlaws. The Outlaws, that's Bristol now.
Yeah.
Talking Bottle. Was Doctor Who Bristol as well, or?
It's Cardiff.
Cardiff.
Yeah.
Batwolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What happened that was that just a case that you done drama, or you never chase film, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably I'm not very good at pushing for work, probably as much as I should, and I think that's probably a result of some things just having certain clients that I work for, and it, that there's a rolling thing. But it's definitely, I'm guilty of probably not pushing myself very well. I'm not very good at that side of things. More the creative side, and not so good at the self-promotion.
Yeah. But is film something that you like to do more?
I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And this is when I started to know your work, which is A Good Girl's Guide.
Okay.
That's a BBC combination with Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Was that a bigger step or not, or was more of the same? Because now we are on Netflix territory.
Yes.
Did that change anything in your line of work? Do you I don't know, do you get more stuff, less stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think different projects resonate with different people, and sometimes you never really know why someone sought you out or why you've got something. I don't like I said, feel that anything has been a real gear shift. I think what I did notice is that there've been times when there've been purple patches of work where I seem to be kind of things coming in, and or somebody might say to me, "Oh, I saw this," or "I loved your images for this," and that's why we thought you might be suitable. But no, I don't think. Again, with Good Girls Guide, that seemed to me. What was interesting about that was it's a huge deal with, well, it's a YA novel that has an incredible reach, as it's been a really successful book. So it's big with teens. So the audience for that was a very different audience. We knew that was going to get a lot of social media sort of interest. And so I suppose that's the first project I've worked on that has gone very big and very viral in that way. So from that point of view, that was different. So it was quite publicity hungry. We knew from the start that we were dealing with a lot of thing that needed a lot of imagery. Yeah.
And do you take the picture of the actress behind the chalkboard and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah. But was that a day on set, or was it a part of the gallery marketing?
Yeah, that wasn't a separate day. We had Emma so I was doing unit on that day as well, and we had some time. We didn't have very much time to do that at all. I think we did the whole thing in like 5 minutes.
But was that a setup that you seen, or was it?
We lit it. It was pre-lit. So it was on a day when we were doing kind of other things in unit, and then we just had her for 5 minutes to do that, rattle some stuff off. So there wasn't then a separate gallery shoot separate from that, but that was that particular image was done as a kind of a smaller gallery moment, basically.
On set while set
exactly.
up or anything like that. Are there any shows where the publicity team said to you, you are in charge of, so they give you the leeway to do your own edits and stuff like that? Like, for example, when I said to you off camera that they gave, my partner gave me the book of Helena Slan of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
The first couple of pages is how she happened to be the stills photographer for such a show. And she said that she was on a job. She got approached by by one of the producers, and they gave her full control of grading and edits and the image wise. So all of that is her. Do you have that opportunity as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's for most of the jobs I work on. I do all my own grading, and I'm kind of working in line with, I'll have that chat with the DOP and the producers and sort of coming up with what, trying to align my stills to the existing visuals of what they have in mind. And sometimes you have to deliver something before they do the final grade. So that can change quite a bit. So then obviously there'll be a lot of jobs where they want the raws so that they can go back in afterwards and change it. Yeah, exactly. And they might do that. But, for a lot of the things I've done, the grade that I've presented them with is what has ended up going out. Yeah.
How do you do the delivering of images now?
In terms of just the physical, how it's
JPEGs
done.
and RAWs and stuff like that. Do you ask for a hard drive or something?
It depends. Sometimes that it'll be an FTP that they prescribe for you that you have to upload everything to. Sometimes it's just WeTransfer, or put everything on a hard drive, or sometimes it's we need everything as we go. Other times it's can you just put it all on the end of the job or whatever. So and then often it will be the JPEGs they want in the first instance, but then with the RAWs as a possibility at the end.
How fast is your turnaround of JPEGs when you are?
I try and make it quite quick, so I'm trying to do it, it depends if you've got quite a few jobs on the go or what's happening, but I'm trying to do it either next day or day after, so not days and days after, so I don't take that long.
Was there a show that you said that stood up on your experience from any other jobs that you've done, that you feel like, oh, this is going back home, sort of thing, with the crew, that you know how they work and that they're polished, and you kind of all know each other? I know that you know people from the environment that they move into from shoot to shoot, but do you have that experience?
Well, so I guess my going back home job is Grace for ITV, which I do every year. And I was on that from the start, and we're about to shoot Series 6. So that's my Brighton fam, who are amazing. And that's been incredible, because it's not always the same. Like, the directors come and go, and even some of the crew come and go, but there's a core crew, and the producer and the cast have been pretty much the same all the way through, and that's been amazing. And then there are obviously jobs, I think, that I've loved for different reasons, be it a director that I've worked with that I really wanted to work with, or just a project that was just glorious in every way. I loved Life After Life, was brilliant for that. That felt like a very special project. I loved The Gold, which I did for BBC One, mainly because that was a really creative, it looked really beautiful. It was visually a bit of a treat, and I had a lot of kind of creative leeway with that one, and seeing it right through from the start through to all the key art, and having quite a big part in that. So that was also lovely. And then more recently I did Time for the BBC as well, which again was actually quite a hard job to do access wise, because it was all shot in a prison and we were in tiny spaces, so I couldn't actually get into the rooms. But I think in terms of, again, the people that I was working with, and in the end what it looked like, that was really nice for me. I was really pleased with that one.
What was your biggest lesson that you learned on set?
I think at the start, I felt probably that I had to kind of know it all a bit. I probably have learned over time that it's about relationships with people and building those relationships. And I think to start with, I was trying to be really unobtrusive and just kind of get on and be really quiet in the corner. And actually, I think as you go on, you realize it's much more about making relationships with people, having those conversations, asking people, is it okay for me to be here? Is it, am I in your way? Those just kind of actually being a lot more active on set, in terms of not just hiding in a corner, but understanding what you need to do, where you need to be, and it's more transactional than I think a lot of people think at the start.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone that wants to start a journey as a junior still photographer? What is something key that they have to know?
Well, I think the kind of thing that you're doing is great for a start. So asking about things, finding out that information, and I think connecting with more people. I wish I'd done that at the start, is connecting with more photographers and maybe made those relationships a bit early on and asked some of those tricky questions, because I think I was probably afraid to ask them, or think people might not give me that answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to say, well, of course, everybody's happy to help and understand what it's like when we all started out. And so it's okay to seek out that information and to ask those questions, and not feel you have to have all the answers to start with.
Absolutely. After 14, 15 years that you've been doing this, do you still feel that passion going to set, or is it's just job now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's that brilliant quote from David Bowie, isn't it, about being just out of your depth in the water, and that's when you're in the good place, is when it's just that little bit. So that's when I like it, when it's maybe a new project or something that I haven't done before, and you're just feeling like, oh, it's a new day on a different set, and you're thinking, oh, if you're feeling that adrenaline and feeling like, oh, I've got to try and start these new relationships all over again, that's when it's good, and that you're interested. I think that, there are jobs that can feel like everything. There are not great days, but there's still enough that I'm learning, or I always make sure that on a job I try and do something different, be it use a different lens or try a different piece of kit, or just try and think, okay, this time I'm going to try and do this, or this is my approach for this job, so that you're always pushing yourself creatively. I think.
Yeah. So you're just not stuck to the 24/7 and you know what to do.
Exactly.
And where to be. Where do you want to be like in the next 5 years? Is there a dream, I don't know, job that you want to get for the platform, get out from the BBC, ITV sort of thing, move into another Netflix show or something? Is that a goal that you are focused on?
I think it's definitely, we were talking about film, that would be great. I think to do what I enjoy most is being on projects more long term, so that you're not dipping in and out. There's something, you're with something from the beginning all the way through, and helping anything where you can help to sort of really add to that visual identity of it. And it's you feel that you have a real that you're there as part of the creative team, that's you've got something that you feel you can really add to it.
How do you feel about women in the industry now?
I think it's obviously getting a lot better, because there's a real step to make sure that women are working in all different aspects of film and TV. Obviously, you can see that on set, I think, a lot more. You can see a lot more bit by bit. It's taken a while, but there are more women directors, there are more women writers, there are more people on set. It's still difficult, I think, for women throughout. I see a lot of women, for example, on the crew that are in their 20s, and there's a lot of women in production, but there's a big dropout for women around that time when they might be having a family, and because the hours are long, and it is a difficult job to juggle with, and that's for men and women, obviously. But it's kind of interesting that we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
What about from the unit still point of view?
There's a lot more female photographers now, which is fantastic, and I think that's, again, I think it has been it's just sort of male dominated in the way that photography has been for quite a long time, and has changed over the last 20 years. Because I think that's for all branches of photography. You see a lot more, it's just everything has become more accessible, the information, the kit. It's that, isn't it? That sort of sense that it's become moved out of a slightly techie domain that was very male dominated into something where women now are present.
Are you a techie person?
Within limits. I like all photographers, I like my gear, it's like, ooh, a new lens, ooh, a thing, oh, there's a new Nikon camera, I'm going to try that. But there's a level at which I don't operate, which I think is a high nerd level that I'm never going to get there.
What cameras are you using now?
So I'm on the Z7, the Nikon the Z9.
Z9.
Yeah.
Professional body. Two of them?
I've only got one Z9. They're very expensive. I've got a Z7, and I still shoot on my D850, which is a lovely Nikon camera that is...
What, on a blimp?
No, I just use that kind of for puller sides and things like that. I love it. It's beautiful for portraits. So I never use that for stills, but I've got that as my kind of little...
It's funny that you said that, because a lot of people for gallery shoots, they still use the old DSLR professionals body sort of thing, like 850. I know a lot of people that are still using like 5D Mark IVs and stuff.
Okay.
I used to shoot on the 5D Mark IV with my blimp.
Yes.
I got my blimp shipped from Japan.
Okay.
I bought it like for £400 when I came here. I have to pay tax on top of it, so it was like £500 for the blimp. I still keep it. I hated it. I still hate it. But I found that there was a massive quality change when I sold my 5D and I got my first Canon mirrorless.
Yeah.
I just felt like everything was just better. But I just find other people that they still use and they still love like the DSLR.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
You one of them.
No, I wouldn't use it for. I'm sort of using the Z9 for gallery shoots and things, and I really love it for that. Maybe it's because people get into a mode where they've done some great shoots with a camera and they then move on. You know, it's that feel. I love it so much that I don't want to kind of risk something high stakes with a different. But no, I'm very happy to just go, great, no, let's try this one. So I think I got there was actually a client that requested the Z9 when I was shooting on a Z7 for the gallery shoot, and I had a quick practice on it the day before and then went straight into the gallery shoot to do it.
That's because of megapixels, I believe.
I think they just were the kind of client that went, whatever the biggest and the best is, we want it, sort of thing. So although obviously it wasn't medium format, they still were, but they said if we want it, they wanted the Z9. And I shot on that and went, yeah, this is just great.
Yeah, I use a Z9 on with Gareth workshop. It feels right. It's a tank.
It's big,
but it feels like it's gonna last ages.
I mean, that's the only problem with it. I think I went to the Z9 before the Z8 had come out.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to come out, but I just thought I've got to go with this because I know that this is going to be a big leap from the Z7. So yeah, realistically, the Z8 is the perfect in between in terms of weight. The Z9 is very heavy, but you know, I'm kind of used to it now. But yeah, when you've got that with a 70 to 200 lens on it, it's
massive.
It's ridiculous.
Can you still carry that?
Yeah, I am. It's just I'm again used to it now, but yeah, I'd like to move to the Z8 definitely. I think as my second camera.
To get and move on from the Z7
exactly.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite focal length?
Whatever you need for the job, I guess, is the answer for that. But
is there a look sort of thing that you like?
Well, I love an 85 for portraits, and I suppose 35 I shoot quite a lot if I'm using I do use primes quite a lot. So yeah, the 35 and all the Nikon, the S lenses for the Z are fabulous.
Oh, they're fantastic.
They're so good. Yeah. So you kind of can't go wrong with any of those.
Do you own many primes from the Z system?
I've got the 35 and I've got the 85. So yeah, those are the
mainly ones.
Yeah.
Do you still have a film camera or not? Do you use a film?
I do. I used one on the Gold. We did some shots with that because it was set in the 1980s. So I used the sort of Nikon camera of the time, and that was really nice to use. And I do it's lovely to do it. It's more about a timing thing. And when I did that and used it on set, I sort of went, oh, this is laughable. About just even having to wind something on and the time that we're so used to acting so quickly and doing things in seconds that you realise that film possibly doesn't lend itself to those very quick moments on set. I've never done a whole project with film. Would be extraordinary, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be quite scary. Mainly just because of the access and the time that you get. Yeah. But if you were given that leeway, that would be amazing. But
do you have a film camera that you take on?
Yeah,
set
I
to
do,
film
but I just don't. Yeah, but Yes, and I don't use it probably as much as I'd like to, but yeah, it's nice to have some fun with, definitely. Yeah.
What sort of gear would you recommend to someone that wants to start out?
Well, I think most people are, you can get quite far with quite little kit for quite a long time. That's what I would say, and it's a bit like anything, shooting anything professionally, you've got to build up. It's really expensive, isn't it? So how do you can't start off with all the lenses and all the bodies and, it's crazy. So I would say just be really good at shooting with what you've got. And that's all you can do until you're kind of in a position. I rented a huge amount of kit to start with, probably spent a ridiculous amount of money on renting, I guess. Should have just bought it all. But yeah, it was nice. It was a nice way to work my way through the lenses and figure out what I wanted and what I liked. I think obviously the standard, the easiest kit to work with is your body and your kind of, 24 to 70, 70 to 200 is, an obvious thing that gives you a lot of options. And then, but I find that I'm shooting a lot of primes when I'm in dark situations, as we are often now, shooting in very low level light.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the reason why I ask you is because from my perspective, on my early days, in order to get good images, there was a massive step up from me when I bought my 35 1.4.
Okay. Yeah.
And because when we are in the indie low budget world, everything is just candle lit.
Yeah.
And the 24-70 is not fast enough.
No.
So I tend to be using my 35 more than anything else because of the situations where I am. Because as it is on my 35, my ISO is like 3200 already.
Yes.
It's really high.
Yeah.
So imagine putting a 2.8 lens on it, which is images couldn't be usable.
No.
And that's why, because all the time I found myself that I had like my 5D Mark IV on a 24-70, but sometimes wasn't enough.
No.
And by doing and by missing shots, I realized that I needed the fastest lens I could find for my indie world, and that was a 35. I know that once that you get into bigger sets and the kind of bare minimum like BBC ITV sort of thing, your 24-70, 7200 is more than enough. I know that you just said that you are using a lot of primes as well, but
yeah,
on a location, on a feature film on indie world, sometimes you're just stuck with primes.
Yeah.
All day, all night.
But that I think that's a much better that way around, in a way, to kind of learn to move about and shoot on those primes, and I think you get some beautiful results with that, absolutely. Don't you?
Absolutely.
And I think
there is a massive change of imagery when I use prime rather than a zoom lens.
Yeah.
But of course, you have to move below.
Yeah.
What's next for you now, Sally?
So I'm going back on another series of Grace very soon, which will be great. Back to Brighton. I am about to start on a Netflix project, which is a little bit, even I don't know what it is. Yes, it's quite secretive, but I don't know. So yeah, and I've just been working the odd day covering for another photographer, for Chris Harris, and doing an ITV show with him. So that's been really good. Yeah, so...
How far in advance you get booked for shows now?
A lot of it can be super last minute, and some of it is, it varies. So with Grace, obviously, I know when that's recommissioned, and I get plenty of advance warning for that. With other things, it can be, oh, we're starting something in a couple of weeks' time, or even next week, or are you available? So I think you find that suddenly there's a time when all the dramas are up and running, and suddenly there's a bit of it could be a frantic search to find someone, or they've left the stills to the very last minute, and you suddenly get that, oh yeah, are you available for 3 months, so yeah, it does vary.
How do you keep yourself busy during the quiet times?
So I've done a lot of headshots at home. I haven't been doing that so much recently. but that's, I'd always have sessions booked in doing that as well. And I think it's kind of important. What I'm trying to do a lot more of is just sort of do a bit of my own work, my own projects, which I used to do a lot more of and haven't recently. And I need to kind of get back on that, because I do think you've got to try and keep the creative juices flowing a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and try and find things that you want to do, that you're passionate about.
Get you excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sally, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's lovely to meet you.
Hi, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I really hope that you enjoy it, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know down below who would you like me to interview next. Until then, I'm gonna see you on the next episode.